In September 1992, one man made a bet against an entire country. Not a company, a country. He bet that Britain could not defend its own money. And in a single afternoon, he was proven right. This is the day the pound broke, and the traitor who broke it. To understand it, you have to understand something odd about money. A pound is only worth what people are willing to pay for it. Every day, all over the world, traders buy and sell currencies, and the prices move like anything else. And in 1990, Britain made a very public promise about exactly what its pound should be worth. That promise had a name: the exchange rate mechanism. It was a club of European countries that agreed to lock their currencies together, all anchored to the strongest one, the German mark. Britain joined in October 1990, pinning the pound at nearly 3 marks and swearing to keep it inside a narrow band, never letting it fall through the floor. But a promise like that is only as strong as the country making it. Germany had just reunified, and it was expensive, so its central bank pushed interest rates up to cool things down. Because the pound was chained to the mark, Britain was dragged along. To hold the peg, it needed high rates too. The problem? Britain was in a recession. It desperately needed low rates. It was trapped between a promise and its own economy, and everyone watching could see it. Now meet the man who noticed. George Soros was born in Budapest in 1930. As a Jewish boy under Nazi occupation, he survived the war on forged papers. He fled to London, studied at the London School of Economics, and built one of the most feared investment funds in the world. And he had spent his life betting on the moment a fragile system finally cracks. Here is the trick he used, and it is simpler than it sounds. It is called shorting. First, you borrow a mountain of pounds. Then you sell them straight away, while they are still worth nearly 3 marks each. You wait for the price to fall. Then you buy the pounds back cheaply, hand them back, and keep the difference. If the pound drops, you make a fortune. Soros was not alone. His lead manager, Stanley Druckenmiller, had studied the trap and was sure the pound would break. He wanted to bet big. Soros told him to bet bigger. Go for the jugular, he said. So instead of $1 billion, they built a position worth more than $10 billion, all pointing one way:
down.
On the morning of the 16th of September, 1992, they struck. And Soros was not the only one. Once the selling started, banks and traders around the world piled in, dumping pounds as fast as they could. Wave after wave of sell orders slammed into the currency, shoving it down toward the floor of the band. The floor Britain had sworn to defend. The Bank of England fought back with everything it had. In the morning, it yanked interest rates up from 10% to 12% and promised 15% by the next day, to punish anyone betting against the pound. Then it spent billions, around £15 billion of the nation's reserves, buying up its own currency to prop up the price. For a few hours, it was a real fight. But it was not enough. For every pound the bank bought, the traders sold more. The rate hikes scared no one because everyone knew Britain could not really afford it. By the afternoon, the pound smashed straight through the floor of the band. The promise was broken. There was nothing left to defend. That evening, the Chancellor, Norman Lamont, stepped out of the Treasury into a crowd of cameras. And he surrendered. Britain, he said, was suspending its membership of the exchange rate mechanism. The peg was dead. The pound was cut loose. As Lamont put it, today has been an extremely difficult and turbulent day. Behind the calm words, the government had just been beaten, in public, by the markets. When the dust settled, the numbers were staggering. The failed defense had cost British taxpayers around £3.3 billion in a single day. And Soros? His fund had made roughly $1 billion on the trade. The newspapers gave him a nickname that stuck: the man who broke the Bank of England. £3.3 billion, gone in an afternoon, defending a promise that could not be kept. But here's the twist almost no one expects. Getting kicked out of the exchange rate mechanism may have been the best thing that ever happened to Britain. Freed from the peg, the pound fell to a level it could actually afford. Interest rates dropped, exports grew, and the economy began to recover. Some now call it White Wednesday. And burned by the whole ordeal, Britain would never join the euro.
So, what was it really?
Not just one greedy trader. It was the moment the world learned a hard lesson. A government can make a promise, But if the markets do not believe it, all the reserves and rate hikes in the world cannot save it. One fund, betting against a nation and winning. That is why we still talk about the 16th of September, 1992. If you love the true story hiding behind things everyone thinks they know, subscribe. There is a new hand-drawn story every few days. I'm really glad you're here.